Hi everybody, it's Maiden. I'm here for our third class on healthcare. We are on July 14th. It's Friday, so everybody's probably wanting to leave and go home or whatever for the weekend, and I need your attention for 1 hour. Okay, so right now it's 10:30 in Santa Fe, and I need you guys till about 11:30 if that's okay. Okay, so here's what I want to talk about is your healthcare system, right? And I've done a little research on your top 10 healthcare groups. You've got United Health Group, Anthem, Aetna, Cigna, Humana, Centene Corporation, Health Net, WellCare Health Plans, Molina, Magellan Health, and I guess that's your top 10. Okay, this doesn't have anything, we don't see in this listing anything on, your Medicare, $294 billion. Okay, so upon some of this research on your healthcare, guys, here's what I want to talk to you about. Okay, this is very serious, okay? Okay. What I want to say is that precedence in law is something that's very big, okay? Precedence. And what I mean by that is what has happened before now to lay down the atmosphere, if you will, of the issue. Okay, so the atmosphere of this issue is that we have bonds interwoven into all of these healthcare providers. Okay. Some of these bonds go back, way back, in the 80s, 90s, 2000. We're at 2017, and you're still accumulating on bonds that happened a long time ago. Okay, so I turned off my air because it makes too much noise in the background, and I only have an hour, so I'm just trying to hurry up here. Okay, so any plan that you put together is going to have a residual effect on the future as well as everybody that you guys have on the books from before. Now, when I did some research on this, on these top 10, I'm not going to tell you which one or how many, but we've got weaponry tied up in our healthcare. Not just weaponry, but we've got banks, which is the MERS issue, tied up in our healthcare. And it looks like what they've done is they've put all of the big issues of, of our books interwoven into the healthcare sector, because the healthcare sector is one of those issues that really does apply all the way across the board into every living aspect. And I talked about that in the second class. Okay, so what is the solution? What is the issue? The issue is that people, real life people, are the priority. However, up until this point, people haven't been the priority. The investment and return of investment has been the priority. Now we have probably 3 decades. I could probably link 3 decades to today's healthcare plan. Okay, what I'm saying is that bonds are maturation of cycle are happening probably 30 years back to today, and activating by today, paying out dividends. And as long as we keep those issues alive, then we get to continue to keep those bonds paying. Okay. So all of those investors, and what I'm looking at is other countries, foreign investors. So we've got foreign investors, we've got foreign bonds, we've got foreign accounts that the bonds are paying dividends to, which are also making new investments. And the whole thing is very, it's just everything but healthcare, okay? And the healthcare, when I'm saying healthcare, I am saying that when a person is hurt or a person needs care, that they're able to access what it is that we're trying to give them in terms of care. However, that is being undermined and that is being usurped. And that is our whole health system is under subjugation, slavery, contract to these higher issues of investment that have been already precedented before today. So you guys are all spinning your wheels in Congress. The House and Congress are just spinning your wheels trying to understand how do we get an effectual bill, knowing all the precedents that we're not allowed to talk about. Okay, so today, Maiden of Santa Fe, Misha G. Valdez, 2020 presidential candidate, is here to tell you that the jurisdiction that you want to go forward in is an ecclesiastical jurisdiction, okay? It is a health issue, which means a life or death issue, which when you come to a life or death issue, you're coming to the feet of God because God created the life. God is going to orchestrate, the appointment of the death. And then, that's God's problem. That's God's issue. It's not a problem, but it's God's issue. Okay, so to line everything back up with God, back down to the earth, and then we are the stewards therein, it is very, very important to understand the imperative nature of 2017 to be the year that America separated herself into ecclesiastical jurisdiction. Now, how does this affect the human life right away? This changes every human life from a civil jurisdiction to an ecclesiastical jurisdiction. That means that every single person, if Congress and the House agree that they will no longer identify the human life American citizen as an alien, as inventory of any sector, as anything other than an American sovereign in the making. Okay? Now, that goes back to the Word of God, which you can line directly up with ecclesiastical jurisdiction. And right there, you have made an amazing stride. Okay? Now, as soon as you do that one thing, remove the American citizen from all the different identifications in different rule of law, the American citizen was always an American sovereign. But leadership failed the American citizen, and now we are considered either whatever, depending on whatever rule of law you're looking at, we're all kinds of different things. We're all kinds of different things, and it's very, very scary. Okay, so to save our human race, every other country should do this as well, but we don't have control of that, so we're going to go directly to America, and we're going to talk about America. But if any other country is listening, you might want to take some notes because this is good for you too, okay? So America needs to change her jurisdiction on every human life and bring them into ecclesiastical jurisdiction and change their status back to American sovereign, and that we have an American sovereign democracy, not a dictatorship, a democracy. in grooming, raising, launching, supporting, living out American sovereignty. It's a very exciting issue. Okay. Now, all the different books that you guys have created in terms of collateral assignments on the American citizen, under sector, under inventory, under all these different other labels that you've put human life under, you can't go back and change those. It's too much of a mess. You guys are wasting your time, okay? So again, it goes back to one simple principle, okay? We're going to go back to the plumbing and heating issues, okay, as an example. So if you have a system that is in a knot or clogged or bottlenecked or whatever, you figure out another way to bring in solutions, bypassing the original issues and starting the new system, okay? What happens to the old system? Okay. Right now, in real life, every single country has a real government and a shadow government. The shadow government is usually the most predominant government, and the real government, or the one that everybody's looking at, is usually just talking heads, okay? Because the shadow government is doing all of their agenda, and the government everyone's looking at is just basically a decoy. Okay, so what are we going to do? What we're going to do is we're going to flip it, okay? So the shadow government is no longer the real government. The shadow government becomes the decoy. And the real government that everyone's looking at is the real government, okay? So what that means is in the United States of America, as of today, July 14th, okay, 7/7/14/17. It's a great day to do this if you haven't already done it, but I doubt you have, is that you put in a motion to bring all human life citizens, human beings, okay, of America back into an American sovereign jurisdiction, which is ecclesiastical jurisdiction. Now, what happens to all of the buying and selling and all of the different stuff that we're used to? That stays in jurisdiction of civil, but it is below the human person, which means when we go into court, the most important thing to the judge, and that's another whole subject because the judges aren't even being honored right now. Okay, but just staying on topic real fast is to remember that once this jurisdiction changes, the human value goes up, okay, over everything, okay? So there isn't if you bring up the value on the human life and you go, okay, now we can just, Federal Reserve goes, okay, now we can just bring up the value on everything we have. Okay, wait a minute before you do that, okay, because this is why. The human value, right, is the perpetuity, and you guys already have those dynasty trusts. Now I'm going to go back to this issue. If you are in the House, or if you are in Congress, or you are a page, or working in any cabinet for the president, the very most important study that you can do is the dynasty trusts in every single state under perpetuity law that you can find through the constitutional law. Okay, this is a very secretive atmosphere. Even if you're studying to do taxes, you don't get to know this as a privileged information. So this goes back to the argument, the lawful argument of rights versus privilege. Now, where are we real time, where are we on this issue? 100% of the United States citizens, I would say only 1% understand the dynasty trust, the Delaware tax trap, and the Delaware corporation structures. These are three elements of the nation of America's wealth. And it is very, very sad because most countries know more about this than our actual citizens do. which is a breach of trust. Okay? So, we have to bypass now all of that, those structures, and go forward in a brand new jurisdiction for American citizens that is rightfully theirs, inalienable rights. That inalienable right is an inalienable issue which cannot be separated. It's like a stripes on a zebra. You can't separate them. It's like marks on a giraffe coat. You can't separate it. It's like who we are as human beings in America. That is our inalienable right, is to walk in our lives fully as an American sovereign, which is a supremacy status. Now, are we living a supremacy status? No, negative. We're not. We're living a slave status, and everybody psychologically has been very, very damaged and impaired because they have believed this, and they've lived it, and generations have lived it, and so it's a very, very huge injury to America. Now, for us to get on the right track in terms of our books, which is all of our financial obligations, which is a whole nother issue, as far as our value as American citizens, which is American sovereigns, and as far as our health care, which is one sector that is a sector that covers all of our lives. In every sector we're talking about, everywhere you go, there's health care issues. Okay? So it means that our Congress and our House, for them to do this new jurisdiction of American citizens going back to American sovereignty, is that Congress and the House realizes that our greatest asset of America is our people, okay? Our second greatest asset is our land and our atmosphere, our biosphere, and our greatest asset actually is God, our faith in God. And you can see countries that don't believe in God, and they are immersed in poverty. Now, America has poverty, but the poverty we have is instantly able to be, we're able to go into all of our states in the United States if our Congress and our House and our presidential spheres of our president and all that is surrounding our president, if everybody would agree, let's go ahead and bump up our citizenship to where it's supposed to be, based on any other prior agreement about our sovereignty that was given away, signed off on, any treaty, blah, blah, blah. Okay, if America didn't know about it or America didn't sign off on it per citizen, we're not party to those agreements, and we legally are not accountable for those agreements. But if America were put back to where they were before these agreements were made, you can do that rightfully without their signatures, because you're basically restoring the rightful ascendancy of the human race where it should be. Okay. Now, in this dispensation of grace, GRACE, it is the unmerited favor of God to you and me, all American citizens all over the world. This is for all over the world, but you cannot make another country believe in God. Okay, so we're going to return back to America, and we're going to implement this on American citizens because we do have precedents of in God we trust, correct? Okay, good. So as we bring this forward, we are then able to exit the fiat currency we currently have, holding on to the value of the American citizen as a sovereign, and implementing the new valuation of freedom, which is it is a $600 billion per person thing, but we're never going to spend all that in one lifetime. So we're going to do an incremental draw before, and now. And so that first draw, I see it being 6 billion because we have so many issues right now that need to be paid off. Okay? So the American sovereign is actually rising out of this slavery issue and back into American sovereignty. You have removed American people from this really knotted up mess that is now the healthcare system. Okay. Now, remember, if you haven't studied perpetuity, you need to, because that is what our country is built on. Okay, based on the crown, who put this all together at the very beginning of our country. So all those dynasty trusts and all of the perpetuity alpha files and all of the coding that goes with that, there's an automatic placement for every single thing that's happening transaction-wise, every person that's born. Everything that's done in America is going into an index of perpetuity. Okay. Now, what's first, the perpetuity or the trustee of the perpetuity? Okay. So what we have first is the trustee of the perpetuity, then the perpetuity. So the trustees have breached their position. And how do we know that? By the situation that we're in. Okay? Time tells all tales. So after the country has been established all the way up to today in 2017, in July of 2017, we now have a situation in our economy where we are using a fiat currency, which is based on faith. There is no other value than that. There's only faith in it, right? And they have breached our faith by selling off many things having to do with America that had no right to be sold. So instead of going back and unknotting all of this mess, the solution is this solution, okay? Now, if we go back to the issue of two books, our shadow books and our real books, okay? Our shadow books are huge. We've got way big investments all over the shadow books. And then today's books are always up for revision, and you guys have always been able to finagle this thing. But it comes down to integrity with God. And when you take this all to heaven with you, as all Congress, all House, and all representatives in the cabinet and everywhere else, you think you're not going to walk away scot-free, even if you have like Bush and Clinton and all you guys that are rascals, you think you've walked away from this scot-free, and your benevolent duties are going to erase what's left of your negotiations. That isn't true, okay? You're going to stand before God and give an account for what you did. Now, I, the Maiden of Santa Fe, would love to help you get on some good books with God. Okay, so here's how we're going to do it. If you had something to do, any of our presidents that are still alive, if you had something to do with selling out the American people, and you know exactly what transactions those are, it is so important that you get with a current House of Representative or Congressman, sit with them and explain it to them so they know exactly what you did. There is no judgment on you. It's just trying to understand it now. Now, if you don't say a word and you die and you stand before God, good luck. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. But if you have a conscience and you want to do well with God, I suggest you go find somebody you can trust, who can understand what you're saying, because they're basically going to become your navigator for everyone who doesn't know what you did. Okay? They're not going to disclose you, but they're going to disclose this was done. Okay? And here's how we need to fix it. Now, the simple fix, which is really for every one of these situations, is the fact that this whole entire history So I can go back to the beginning of our country and begin 1 year after the next to show you the exploitation of the illiteracy involved and show you the duplicity of what the people know versus what is actually going on. And so we really don't have any like free and clear year that we are all on the same page, everyone was honest, and it was all like above board. We are searching for leadership in this country that will be above board with every human life citizen of America. And that means that there are no more slave contracts. There are no more slave instruments. There's no more fiat currency coming out of America. If other countries want to do it, let them do it. But the real, genuine article of integrity and stepping up to the plate and manning up and womaning up and being a real sovereign is to be honest, okay? It's just to be honest. And say, we messed up on this book, we messed up over here, and we owe great money to so-and-so because we did this or that. Now, we all know there's a China issue right now. There's a huge China issue on economy. Why? Because China was our biggest importer, and they have a lot of debt on their books by America. Okay. I don't want to go into a debt class right now. There's a lot to debt that America doesn't even know about that is a positive issue. But China, I want to focus on Asia and China and all of that region. We want to honor China. Why? China is a beloved of God. China is precious to God. All of that area is precious to God. These are a humble people in the critical mass of China and Asia, Japan, all of these areas. They have a humble culture. The common citizen. They are humble. They are kind. They are servants. They are amazing people, and they're just beautiful people. So we have to start looking at countries the way that God looks at them, okay? So what I recommend we do is we begin again on our books, America's books, okay? That doesn't have to do with anybody else other than us, okay? For right now, if you guys can separate it, and many of your congressmen who are in Yale, Harvard, graduates, whatever, and you can go into the economies on accounting and say, we can't do that because of this, because of that. I want you to try to breathe, number one, and I want you to try to understand the dominion, the authority that has been given to us by God. You have lost that loving feeling. You have lost that respect, because if you had it, we wouldn't be in this fix in the first place. Greed, mammon, which is a spirit, okay, of covetousness, of greed, and it is a spirit related to money. Okay, so because America is so rich, and they have brought all the riches into one small sector of these few people and conglomerates, it has affected the entire country. So, putting Americans first and saying we're going to give the power back to the people, not in quasi-proxy, but in truth and integrity, is a motion to bring all human life citizens of America into ecclesiastical jurisdiction based on 1 Peter 2, 9, and 10. Now, say they don't believe in God. Say they don't believe in God. Say they don't believe in Jesus. They don't believe in Yeshua. They don't believe in any kind of idea of God. And they're in the United States, and they're legitimate citizens. It is imperative to know that the leadership of America is not waiting around for a vote or whatever from everyone to bring them back to where they're supposed to be all this time. Okay? So if you're looking at the vote, the popular vote or whatever, to get everybody back into American sovereignty, don't hold your breath and don't wait for the people to do it, because you guys are the ones that took us out of it. You guys need to be the ones to put us back in there. Okay, now let's talk about our judicial system, because they're the ones that have to support what you guys are doing. Okay, because of the dynasty trusts structure, because that is hidden by the dynasty tax trap keyword, because that is being covered by the corporate Delaware trusts, corporation structures. Now you've got a threefold structure of obstruction. Then you give the whole bottle of, you give the whole thing to the justices, from the Supreme Court all the way down to the jurisdictions of municipal court. You've got the judges all having to support what it was something they never even had a hand in to create. That's collusion, okay? And you are hurting the American democracy the longer you go on in this. Now, the justices are burdened down with these cases. These cases are so full of erroneous rule of law that is contradicting the other law. You've got jurisdictions blended, and the jurisdiction of the law of one jurisdiction blended with another jurisdiction and other laws there. It's those two laws that are jurisdictions that are fighting each other. And the human beings, which are the attorneys, and then, God forbid, the pro se defense, which is somebody like me, trying to argue the point. It is such a stressful atmosphere. I have suffered a massive heart attack and 22 seizures based on a lack of oxygen from something they put inside of my heart, okay, that I didn't even authorize them doing. I am telling you that this healthcare agenda of eugenics that is above everyone has put an algorithmic formula higher on death than on life. So if you want to know where we're getting hacked in algorithm. We're getting hacked in the biggest sectors, which is healthcare. You want proof? Go into the SEC Edgar filings, which is a self-regulated filing system. And in there, you're going to find file after file after file of financial transactions coded that no one's talking about. And you want to know how to hack? You go into the biggest sector in any country, and you go in like anybody else, and you just hack it. It's not rocket science. So by picking out Russia and all of that, I'm not saying that's inaccurate, but that is definitely not complete. That is not a good, whatever. All right, so back to the healthcare issues. Mitch McConnell, I want to just, say, if I was there, I'd give you a big hug. And Ryan, Paul Ryan, and I just want to tell you, our Congress and our House and our pages and everybody in our cabinet and President Trump's staff who's rich enough to be there, because he won't take anybody who's poor like me to be on the cabinet. Anyway, I just want to say, out of all the disclosure that you have, I respect all of you guys so much that you're trying to hold up this juggling act that really is an impossibility, okay? So I want to give you guys a respite this weekend to understand that when you come back on Monday, the first order of business is to change the jurisdiction of the American citizen to the highest jurisdiction. That's every single citizen that's an actual citizen of the United States. Now, do they have to be a steward over that? Yes. So is there going to be a public declaration of every single person having to accept this declaration or stay in their civil jurisdiction? Yes. And is there a higher calling on everybody who says, yes, I want to be an American sovereign? Higher jurisdiction, higher responsibility, higher value, okay? But everybody has their own free will, so you can't make anybody do it. And so you're going to have two types of citizens in the United States. You're going to have a civil jurisdiction citizen, who is somebody that doesn't want to pursue their sovereignty. They don't want to have anything to do with it, blah, blah, blah. You can hear it all before we get started. And then two, you're going to have a sovereign jurisdiction of a ecclesiastical jurisdiction of an American sovereign, and they have signed off on the Declaration of Independence for themselves, and they are going to strive and aspire and be groomed and be blessed financially to rise as an ambassador of an American sovereign in America. Okay? Two jurisdictions. Now, everybody qualifies for the highest jurisdiction, but America cannot shove this down your throat. Okay, America has to honor God, and God doesn't do that. God doesn't make you believe in anything you don't want to believe in, right? He does say, okay, well, think about this. You know, God doesn't just slam the door and say, fine, you don't believe, then forget it. God isn't like that. God says, you've been hurt, you've been enslaved, you've been oppressed, you've been injured, you've been abused. I can see why you don't believe. So let me give you some overtures to bless you. Let me help heal you. Let me give you a peaceful place to be. And then, you know, maybe then you'll understand this time of bondage is over. This has been a time of bondage for America, to be under this entire tax trap issue. Now, if you look at the draft that was just drafted, this is the draft. This is a 25 pages or so draft of this healthcare bill. I want to say thank you for everybody who put your energy into this. But this is a piece of this basically goes into the round file of the trash can. Okay, and why? Because what you've done throughout this entire document is you've honored this Delaware tax trap. Okay, so Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, you know, she did not create the tax trap. 300 years ago, you know, 1700s is when this thing got started. So we've all been inheriting the same plate of poisonous food, having metaphorically, you know, with this tax trap. The tax trap has been designed so that America's wealth in perpetuity, which is the surnames, would last as long as possible. They did not believe in the intelligence of the common man of America. So they bet against him, and they created this entire thing against him. But it was another country that did it. It wasn't America. It was the founding fathers of America, which were generally the aristocracy of Europe. So America taking back her own crown. Okay, now let's talk about that very quickly, because ecclesiastical goes into the royalty, right? 1 Peter 2, 9, and 10 talks about the royalty. 1 Peter 2, 9, and 10 says that in the fullness of our faith in Jesus Christ, we are actually holy, royal monarchy of heaven, priests, priestesses, kings, and queens. Okay, so that is a very real paradigm to God. And when we stand before God, that is exactly our identity before God. Whether we believe that, whether we live that, whether we didn't, our opinion is not relevant to truth. Truth is truth regardless of your opinion of truth. Okay? So when we humble ourselves before God, we line ourselves up with God, right? What is in heaven is on the earth. Now, pride and high degrees of education and all kinds of history and what you know will tell you all kinds of things that disagree with me right now. However, if I could get you to remember one thing, okay, about this conversation, about this little 1-hour class, it is that God is God. And God is your creator. And not one single day of your life to this very moment have you told God what to do. Okay? Even in your will, say for instance you don't believe in God, and in your will you told God to stay away from you. Okay? Or whatever. All right? The loving kindness and the nature of God was to never, ever, ever let you go. Okay? So he has stayed close to you regardless of your disobedience to God. Regardless of your crime, regardless of your cabal status as a Jesuit or whatever status you have, God has never left you. God has always been there to knock on your door, to come again and again and again to see if you will open up the door of your life to let him in, because he loves you so much and you're only a one-of-a-kind species. You. Okay. So America needs to line up with that. Now, back to the healthcare. The healthcare is a very, it's almost like a holy ground space of an occupancy, because you're saving lives. You should be saving lives. Now, the highest of the insurance companies have really compromised Americans across the board. They've agreed to eugenics agenda, which is a death agenda of subpar humans. They've agreed to a lot of things that are criminal actions. And by, walking past that just for a moment and going into the door of the issue of your life before God, if you are a world leader and you are of the America, standing in as an American ambassador or leader of America or a congressman or Senate or House or anybody that is of any kind of representation of American leadership, and you have sold out America and not told anybody, and you've been doing this for maybe a long time, maybe nobody really knows what you're doing, and I don't want to know what you're doing. I'm just trying to say that you can go into your office, close the door, go into a closet, sit there, close the door. You be alone in that closet all by yourself and ask God to forgive you. He's going to forgive you. Okay, that might be hard to believe. Okay, having seen some of the things that have happened through one person, Bernie Madoff, who is now, they say, in prison, but I take issue with that at times to wonder if he's even there. But privilege gives you a space to hide sin, to hide books, to hide finance, to hide weapons, to hide all kinds of stuff that you guys want to do. Okay, we're getting down to the wire, though, when it comes to our good Lord coming back. And he says, I want to find you busy with my work. Well, what is his work? What is he saying to Peter? Like when he was about ready to leave after the resurrection and he found Peter and he's like, Peter, do you love me? He asked him 3 times, right? And Peter already denied him. So Peter's not feeling good. Peter's just feeling like a rat. He's feeling like, God, I don't even want you to look at me. I'm worthless to you. And Jesus still believed in him. And this is the point I want you to know in your heart of hearts. If I'm talking to you and you know you're a criminal and everybody thinks you're just being, you're just the bee's knees, senator, House representative person, that you know in your own heart that you have done wrong in a big way and you don't know how to fix it. and you just hoping nobody finds out. You're the one I'm talking to. Okay? So you need to get alone with God, and you need to ask him to forgive you. And you need to let him speak to you like Peter. And he's going to say, so-and-so, do you love me? Do you really love me? And you're going to go, God, you know I do, but I've just screwed this up. I messed up. Messed up this, I messed up that, whatever it is. Tell him. And he's going to say, I want you to feed. Feed, key word. Doesn't want starvation for anybody. I want you to feed my sheep. He asked him again, the second time, Peter, do you love me? And he's like, Lord, oh my God, you know I love you. And he's like, it's about my lambs. It's about my people. I want you to take care of my people. He wants us out of poverty. Okay? He doesn't want us in poverty. He doesn't want us in slavery. He doesn't want us in starvation. God is interested in all of us walking as sovereign, supreme beings. America needs a brand new, complete makeover, okay, of who she is as a country. Okay, liberty and freedom, different. Liberty is to get permission to be free. Freedom is the actual freedom. You've gone through the whole process of permission. Now you've been given the freedom. Okay? Now, does that mean you're completely checked out of America and you never come back and blah, blah? Well, no, that's not God's heart, because you need a home. And a home will always receive you back, see how you're doing, get you refueled, get you back into a place of wholeness, to send you back out again to do your work. Okay? So America isn't about I don't know. I can't even imagine what you guys can imagine, but America is all about realizing the sovereign supremacy in each and every human being, every human life, evidenced scientifically. So this is not just a God that is a spirit out there in the cosmos somewhere, whatever, and there's no evidence of what I'm telling you is true. The evidence is absolutely inside of you, about you, and inside of me, about me, and all of us are sovereign before God, and it is scientifically proven. Okay? Alrighty, so my back to the healthcare. So the current healthcare system is corrupted by an umbrella of eugenics, and then number two, by all of the bonds that have crossed over into other sectors, and is now, the healthcare system is not just representing healthcare, it's representing maturation dates and bonds that are encompassing all kinds of things that have nothing to do with healthcare. Okay? So coming back to today's books, we need to start fresh books. But you can't start fresh books unless you change the status of the American citizen. Now, do you have a citizenship for those that are not American? Okay, so we have, like, say, illegal aliens or people that are coming into America running from their country, refugees. Okay, so the refugee status is a different status. It's not an American citizen status. Okay, even if they do the American citizenship class, and they pass that class and everything, this is not a name that's on our perpetuity books. Could it be on a brand new refugee book for freedom? Yes, but that is a different book, okay? So you have to identify the books that you're creating, and you have to separate those books, especially in today, from this day forward. You need to separate those books and say, we're not going to offset these books. We are going to apply this value, and then we're going to build the value of the human life. We're not going to touch our dynasty trusts because that value has already been leveraged, right? Okay, so Her Majesty, you know about that. Papa Francisco, you know about that. Everybody knows about it who has disclosure about these books, that they're way over leveraged. So this brand new, so that now becomes that shadow government of books and all of that. That now is that, okay, that stays by itself, completely isolated. And now we have a brand new book, an intrinsic book. The intrinsic book returns to the value of the human life. It doesn't return value to a couch. It doesn't, all the external materialism is in these older books. The external materialism as we go forward will serve the people, not the people serve the materialism. Okay, that is the fundamental difference there. Human beings no longer do servant slavery. They no longer function in slavery. Okay, now does Jesus call us servants? No, he calls us friends. Okay, so returning our service, what we do with our lives, is an offering unto God. In a higher jurisdiction, it'll be an offering unto God, right? Whatever you do with your life. That is the first focus that you're going to change of the human life. Is before they call it jobs, okay? But after the jurisdiction changes, you become the CEO of your own life. And our structures need to promote that. Part of who you are is royalty in the fullness of your faith in God, Adonai, Jesus Christ, Yeshua. Okay, does that mean that your faith in Buddha or your faith in whatever other God you believe in is there? I'm not even approaching that. I'm just telling you forensically that the blessing under this dispensation of grace, which is where we are right now, evidenced by the date that we're writing down on our date line, this date and this dispensation of time is a direct result from Jesus Christ on the cross. So it doesn't, I'm not trying to eliminate Buddha or eliminate anybody's religion. I'm just trying to tell you the blessing of God is wrapped up in this particular dispensation of grace under this particular God, Jesus Christ, Adonai, Holy Spirit, those three in one. Okay? So please don't get me entangled into anything else. I'm just giving you the forensic scientific evidence in front of you if you're having a hard time understanding what this is about. So again, I liken this to two rivers. One river is all the other gods that you can believe in. And then this other river is one particular God. That is Jesus Christ, Adonai, Yeshua HaMashiach. Okay, if you decide as an individual that you want to believe in this particular God and activate this faith in your life, you will become blessed. Okay? All these other gods, they're not promising you anything. Okay? This one God is. And he has made this provision a long time ago. But the church, we were given a directive by God that says, you be as wise as a serpent. He didn't say be as wise as a book. Be as wise as the Bible. Be as wise as whatever. He said you better be as wise as a serpent, because that is your enemy. And if you don't know your enemy, you're going to lose this battle, sweetie pie. Okay? So he says, be as wise as a serpent, but as gentle, which is the Spirit of God, as a dove. Okay? So we have to perform in a way that is going to honor God. And is this about performance? No. This is about acceptance of a gift of grace, unmerited favor. We've all been given this favor, but God is not going to shove it down your throat. He is going to help. He is going to hopefully acquiesce to you as our leaders and say, please make a way where there seems to be no way. Restore the American sovereignty. Okay? Now, after you've done that, let's open up the structures that support that. We're going to appropriate the $6 billion per person. We're not going to throw that money at them because they'll hurt themselves, obviously. So we are going to have to incrementally bring it forward in a responsible stewardship grooming, which opens up 16 sectors of education. Okay? So there is great wealth before us, in integrity before God. There is great redemption for anybody who's been involved with criminal behavior. Now, God is saying, I will redeem you. He doesn't say, I'm going to take you out of the circumstances that you've created for yourself. But God will help those in prison. He'll restore value to those in prison. Will he set all the prisoners free? I don't see that because there does need to be some rehabilitation here, obviously. Okay, there's rehabilitation needed for every single person because of this oppression of slavery across the board. Okay, so that is what I want to leave you with before the weekend. I want you guys not to think about this over the weekend other than the fact of this one thing. Currently, American citizens do not have the respect of ecclesiastical jurisdiction. They don't even know what it is. And they don't have the respect of civil jurisdiction because you can see the evidentiary pathway of how easy it was to take away all the houses in this last exercise of credit default swap insurance. Okay, so once again, the insurance company was able to step in, create an instrument of predatory nature, just to see how stupid. That's really what they're doing. They're looking at your ignorance of any issue, and they're immediately calling it risk and taking the reward because you didn't see it. Okay? That has to stop. That has to stop. So I, the Maiden of Santa Fe in Santa Fe, New Mexico, am acquiescing to the courts in civil jurisdiction. I'm fighting 4 huge conglomerates, Delaware corporations. And the rule of law is a mess. It's a total mess. And I've been so injured by this. Okay, so I'm not just talking from a place of disconnection or whatever. I am completely connected to this. And in real life, it is extremely injurious. And it has torn apart my life. Okay? Had to say goodbye to all my close relationships. There is a spiritual battle involved in this freedom. And I took a vow of poverty, okay, personal, because if I prosper in the process of me getting everybody free on this pathway, opening up this pathway to your perpetuity, if I prosper, then, and everybody else is still floundering, then they can look at me and go, you just did this for your own gain. So I've taken a personal vow of poverty until this breaks in America, okay? And I promise you that any gift or any amount of money I'm awarded in court or whatever happens with that, if it happens to be in favor of my side of this argument, is going into a trust to further the freedom of America, okay? And it is not going to happen. This freedom is going to stay a quasi-freedom, a proxy freedom, something like nebulous that you can't really, very ethereal, you can't really put your finger on the freedom. You don't feel free. You don't have 2 nickels to rub together. You're working 40 hours to 70, I don't know how many hours, depending upon what sector you're working in, and you really don't even have anything to show for what you're working so hard for. That's going to stop. Okay? So America, we need to have the courage of loving God again, in your face loving God again. And that doesn't mean that you're telling people they're going to go to friggin' hell or, I don't know. I mean, this gets so weird. I just can't even deal with it sometimes. But I'm just trying to tell you that God loves every single one. Every single one God has created. And he says, I am the God. Okay, so don't mistake this God, my God, for anybody, you know, a God that says, oh, they're so far gone, I've turned my back on them. God says until, you know, if you have a breath of life inside of you and you have been the worst criminal and you have done nothing but criminal behavior all your life, God is still prevailing with you, knocking on your door, asking you, can he come in and reason with you? Do you have a place to be reasoned with? And if you cannot find a place that you can be reasoned with, get alone in your closet or your cell, your prison cell, or wherever you are. Get alone, close your eyes, bow your knee, and just cry out to God to forgive you. And you're going to feel a supernatural something lift off of you, and you're going to feel free. That is your green light to get busy. Okay? That's your green light to get busy. And what are you going to get busy with? Solutions to fix what you broke. Okay? So if you don't know where to start, why don't you start with fixing what you broke? Fix what you broke. All right? And that goes back, the original issue is the value of the human life. All of the insurance conglomerates have the human life value greater dead than alive. Every single one. Our military, our police, our FBI, our CIA, our NSA, all of our intelligence, everybody who's serving our country is worth more dead than alive. I take issue with that, big time. And it's those insurance conglomerates that have their algorithmic formulas completely messed up. Okay, so we have to get together and put our brain in the right position and get our human beings back into a position of highest jurisdictions so our courts can understand what is the priority over contract. Because right now, our judges are being forced to enforce laws that are completely contradictory to a human life over a contract that has been voided because you over-securitized it, okay? Like the mortgages. You voided every single mortgage that you put into the securitization system. But you're having the judges stand next to that lie and take away homes from people that have their entire life investment built into that homestead. That is criminal. That is treason. Okay? So I want to just end this class by telling you, again, I thank you. I appreciate your effort to inherit this tangled web of impossibilities. But we need to separate ourselves from the web of mess so we can see it more clearly and honor those other countries that did business with us and believed in us. And that's pretty much every country on the globe really does believe in us. Okay? And we can fix it from that standpoint. But if you're in the middle of the mess and you're trying to do this, you know, draft after draft of another, don't do that. You're already compromised. That is just a further compromise that we don't need that. Okay? You're better off just starting brand new, and I don't see an insurance company in this mess that can hold this new sovereign value. Why? because they're all intermingled with all these different sectors doing all kinds of things you can't see. And the only person who can see them is those who understand bifurcated structures. And nobody really can understand that completely. Thank you, Dodd-Frank. Okay? So we really do need to understand that less is more. A brand new structure of healthcare with a brand new allocation of per each individual with a higher jurisdiction on each individual is going to solve a lot of our problems. Okay? Now, back to the taxes. The tax structure is corruption. Plain and simple. Corruption. Say it with me. Corruption. So, we have got to get with Her Majesty and do a King's X, give her a flat tax that will eliminate any more obligation to her. I don't think that we're in obligation to her anymore legally, but we're honoring that relationship because we love Britain, we love the UK, we want, there are, them, Spain, Paris, France. These are the people that invested into our country when it was just starting out. Our Native American cultures need to be honored. Our African Americans need to be honored. We have not even started honoring the races of America. And that is what our nation needs to do. We need to honor the races of America. Okay? And there is royalty to that issue. So are we going to become a monarchy? Well, honestly, people, we are a monarchy. We're just playing very, very small cards with kings and queens, sovereign kings and queens. So we don't want to be a monarchy, obviously. We do want to be a democracy. We are a free people, okay? But we do need to understand that playing small cards with our DNA, with our God, is not a solution that's even acceptable anymore. We've gotten ourselves in so many fixes because we've done that. So God is saying, have the courage of your convictions. If you're going to believe in me, believe in me. Let me lead you. Let me guide you, he says, and I will help you. Now, for everybody who's all in the Old Testament, we are in a New Testament, okay? We are in a brand new dispensation of grace. So all the rules and regulations of the Old Testament are a type and a shadow. They are to be considered, but you also have to remember that Jesus Christ will not be put into a box. You cannot make him do anything. You cannot make him comply to rules and regulations. Okay? He's a free God, and he's going to do what he wants to do. And if he wants to favor somebody little like me, he can do it. All right. So I love you guys, and I need you to understand that my position is not an adversarial position. My position is a friend of the court position. Now, as far as a ministry and a missionary of finance, I am not going to rat out people that come to me and confess what they've done. I will open a door for them for amnesty to bring forward their treasure troves of whatever it is that they've gotten from their crime. However, I cannot save them from consequences if they've been incarcerated. But I can bring to them a new book of value for their life, okay? A new pathway for them to know that. And then there are stipulations if you are a criminal and you want to assist to bring, whatever you can do to bring justice back to America, because that's what's happening is we're losing justice. We're losing, our justices are getting, they're having to take oaths to things that they don't even believe in, but they don't know what else to do. So they're just, they're just in there, and it's our democracy, okay? So all of our justices need they need a safe haven, okay? And all of these oaths of the Jesuits that are ancient. I've written to Papa Francisco about this. I have acquiesced to him about the vendettas, these ancient vendettas. If we could please bring those under amnesty and bring them to stop, okay? Because we are in this dispensation, and since this dispensation, 2017 years already, we have yet to see a full country. America is not one of the biggest countries. We are, because everybody's coming here. Our density is really, really growing. But as far as an entire huge country going freedom, and in the integrity of the word, we would be the first to do this. And I believe that all of the world would just be like, wow, they did it, And we're going to honor our debts on the shadow books, and we're going to pay them off. Okay, I'm 11 minutes over on my 1 hour, but I want to say this really quick about opium. The opium trade is one of the most ancient opium, medical trades in our history of the world. So when your guys are allocating 200, 400, 6 billion, whatever, dollars to research and development, we weren't born yesterday, okay? I have dealt with the hospitals, and I've been in tremendous pain since my heart attack, daily pain. One time it got so intense that I went to the heart hospital in Albuquerque, and the first thing they did is they shot me up with opium, and I didn't feel a thing. And I was blown away. I was out of pain so fast. So this opium epidemic is a counterfeit healing. It isn't a healing. It's just, let me get you out of pain to get you addicted so you're in deeper pain. So that's not a solution, okay? So our healthcare integrity needs to get out from underneath this eugenics agenda, because the eugenics agenda is going to continue to kill people, indirectly kill people, okay? And they won't take responsibility for it. They're never going to step up, I don't see, and say, we are responsible. We did this. We created these diseases. We created this drug addiction. We created, are they going to actually step up and take responsibility? It would be huge if they did. It would be great, because then they could get credit for the healing. But until they do that, marijuana is a deprogrammer. Marijuana is a organic, if it isn't being laced with anything. It's an organic deprogrammer. It will actually allow your brain another highway of thought that you don't normally think on. And people have said, I'm depressed, I get scared, I blah, blah, blah. And a lot of that is oppressed energy that is now freed to come out, and that's why they're feeling so much depression or scared or whatever. Marijuana is going to need guidance to be used in America, because it can help people relieve a lot of oppression, but they need guidance, safe places, and know that they're not going to get abused or hurt, and it isn't going to be too much. Some people have taken smoked marijuana, got involved in marijuana. They haven't had marijuana ever, and they went into a really bad place. And so there's ways to avoid that, and regulate dosage and all of that, so people can feel like they have an alternative from pharmaceutical industry drugs. Because right now the pharmaceutical industry drugs are predatory in side effects only. You can die by the side effects of pharmaceutical drugs. Okay, there's this healthcare issue, again, is a sector issue, sector-wide issue. You can't see it, but the healthcare bonds are interwoven with weapons, with foreign governments, with foreign agendas. So when you're talking about healthcare on the Main Street, you're not even starting to disclose to them, the people, American people. If you sign up with this one, they're already involved with weapons. You sign up with this one, they're already, you know, and you're wondering why these competitions are so like rocket science. It's because there's way more issues involved than they're going to show you. Okay, I gotta go. I'm 15 minutes over. I love you guys. I'm talking to the House, Congress, Cabinet of President Trump himself, his family, and challenging you guys to consider higher jurisdiction in the courts of every human citizen of America that has been born and raised here, generational families, and that this needs to rise in value. When we're talking about principles, we're talking about principles, two different kinds of principles. There's the PAL at the end, or PLE at the end. The PAL at the end, we're talking about a human principle. The PLE at the end is the leverage equity, which is a decision principle. It's a moral issue or whatever. Okay? So PAL at the end of the word principle is always indicative of a human being. PLE at the end is always indicative of an idea that is being leveraged that has an equity. Okay? I love you guys. Bye-bye.